Now that we have finished designing our article card, we can move on to the next step, which is to design the rest of this home page, starting from the top to the bottom. Okay, so we are going to begin by adding the featured article, and to do that we are just going to convert this card we created here into a flat card and do a bit of styling or a bit of rearrangement. Okay, so to convert a vertical postcard into a horizontal one, all we need to do is to add a class of flat card on it, as we saw in the previous video. And when we do that, we are just going to get the flat card automatically. But now this one is overstretched, so we need to reduce the width a little bit. So for this particular one, I'm going to give it a class of featured post, and then we will use this extra CSS to reduce the width for the featured postcard. So we'll go to our public.css and scroll down to where we define the styles for flat card. And what we are selecting is a postcard that has a class of flat card and also has a class of featured post. Remember, there is no space between these selectors because they denote the same component with all these classes. So for this, we are going to give it a width of 70%. What did I just do? 70%, not pixels. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Also, we need to centralize it, as you can see on the finished project, and for that I will just centralize the main card itself, the flat card itself, because we are also going to need it centralized wherever we are displaying it. And in the other pages, in the topics pages for example, we are applying some margin at the top and the bottom of the card. So I'm just going to apply that as default in addition to centralizing the card. So we will give it a margin top of 32 pixels, then left and right auto, and then at the bottom we'll give it a margin of 64 pixels, as you can see here. Okay, having given that, if we refresh, our card will now be centralized, and this looks fine as a featured article. Okay, the next thing we want to do is to make this card responsive on smaller screen sizes. So if we begin to first of all, let me remove this red border, we no longer need it. And then when we begin to reduce the screen size, at a certain point we will want our card to extend to fill up the rest of the space on the page. So I'm going to create a media query. Let me just copy from what I've written before. So the media query will be at 1024 pixels breaking point. And at that breaking point, I'm going to give our featured post a width of 100% so that it extends and fills up the rest of the horizontal space. Alright, so this makes it look better. If I continue to reduce, at one point it's going to break again and change into a vertical card like we did in the last video. And this is totally responsive, but I think this card still has too much space around it. And the reason for this space is because of a padding that we gave to the page container itself. So we are going to define a media query. Let me see, I think for the 1024 we'll define a media query, and in that media query we are going to select the page container and give it a padding of, let's say, 16 pixels. And then let us go back to the page and refresh it, and I think this looks better now. Yeah, looks more responsive. Okay, and that is all for the featured article on our home page. In the next video we are going to continue with the next part, which is this carousel you see here.